All right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Brian and Ethan's Biathlon podcast, the podcast where we are guaranteed to hit our last shot. Ethan, finally out of Kontiolahti, moved down to Hochfiltzen. First impressions, what do you think?
Very exciting races. I think there's definitely more exciting things to come next week when they're also still in Hochfiltzen, but a lot of stuff went down. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and it actually looked like it was more winter this week. There was snow off the track. I mean, obviously not a lot, but there was snow off the track, and then it was actually snowing on Sunday at the end of the week. So hopefully we'll have real winter next week.
Yeah, and towards the end of the week, you could see some of the roller ski loop tracks out there, but it was snowing, so that's definitely a good sign for next week.
We're going to start off with a feel-good story. Ukaleq Slettemark made her World Cup debut for Greenland. The only reason I'm throwing this one in there is because she kind of shocked the world with her win at Junior Worlds a couple years ago. She had 100% shooting in the individual, and she was the youth world champion of 2018-2019 season. I think the biathlon community has a lot of hopes for her. She's going to be, I think people want her to be this kind of person to kind of come in and expand biathlon's horizons onto some of these smaller nations, and I think it sounds like everyone's really rooting for her and wants her to do super well.
Mm-hmm. Especially she's 19 years old. Like I'm 19 years old. I can't imagine what she's going through right now.
Yeah. I mean, she's consistently had top tens in the junior cups, even though she was a youth athlete. She's actually, I guess, she's now a first-year junior this season. So, yeah, we're excited to see where she ends up going. Both her parents were biathletes for Greenland, which obviously, again, Greenland, not really a country you immediately think of when it comes to biathlon, but both her parents were biathletes, and her mom has been doing an incredible job of trying to expand biathlon in Greenland. So we'll see how Slettemark ends up doing. How'd she end up doing this weekend?
It looked like she did okay. I mean, 96th with 2 misses in the sprint, getting that World Cup experience in there, not blowing anyone out of the water, but it's her first year on the World Cup and she's 19 years old. Any race she gets is awesome.
Yeah, and you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The last standing of the men's relay. What the heck just happened?
It's like everything that you could possibly think about to go wrong in a biathlon race probably went wrong.
So let's break it down for a moment. Johannes and Sebastian Samuelsson, who have already established themselves as having a rivalry this year, are coming in for Norway and Sweden last shooting stage of the entire relay. They've literally been racing for like an hour and 20 minutes at this point. And these two are literally right next to each other coming into the last standing. So as if that's not enough excitement, as Johannes Thingnes is approaching the mat, a volunteer gets in his way. The volunteer is on the mat, sweeping the mat because there was a little bit of snow, so he was trying to keep it clean for him. I guess the volunteer just did not realize what was going on. Johannes Thingnes had to yell at him to get out of the way. And then, unfortunately for the volunteer, he kind of had that quick moment of what's going on. He turns around, runs into the camera, and then runs off of the frame. So right there, it's like, oh my God, that was crazy. And then, so both Bo and Samuelsson have 2 misses after their first 5 shootings. And then as Samuelsson goes to start loading his spare rounds, I think what ended up happening was his last shot from his magazine didn't eject out of the chamber. So you saw him try to load his first round, and it didn't go in. And then he tried to close his bolt, but it got stuck. So he opened it up, tried to put a new one in, tried to close that one, got stuck, and that's when he realized, oh no, the brass is actually stuck in the chamber. That's when you see him lower his rifle, cycle through the bolt a million times, trying to get that thing to eject, finally gets it to eject, and now he's ready to go and keep shooting and using his spare rounds. Meanwhile, over on the Norwegian mat, Johannes Thingnes, who obviously is the favorite this year and has been for the last couple of years, he's missing his spare rounds. He just keeps like slapping the paint, slapping the white, and he ends up having a penalty loop. With 8 shots, Johannes Thingnes could not hit his 5 targets. Well, there's no pressure in the world. Sebastian's over here fumbling with his rifle. No pressure in the world. Can't hit his shots. Samuelsson ends up hitting his two misses and ends up leaving the range without any penalty loops. And Bo was about 15 seconds back by the time he got done with his spare rounds, or by the time he got done with his penalty loop. But holy crap! Like you said, everything that could have gone wrong in that one shooting stage happened.
Yeah, it was almost like frustrating to watch because like you hate for someone's race to be ruined by like a malfunction with their rifle, and then like Johannes had the opportunity to capitalize on it and really take advantage of it, and he just couldn't, and it was hard to watch for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever had an issue where you've like a volunteer has gotten in your way on the range?
I think maybe once it happened, but it was like a local race, so it wasn't super like high stakes, and obviously like they're in the World Cup, so I have no idea what that's like, but it definitely messes with your head for sure.
I know, like obviously, part of range procedure when you're coming in to take, into shooting, it's like as you start approaching the mat, you take your poles off, you start opening your snow covers, you start shifting your mental focus towards the shooting, towards the squeezing of the trigger, seeing the target through the sights, stuff like that. And then obviously Bo, who's looking down at he kind of looked like he was looking down at his ski tips as he was sliding into the mat. I wonder how much looking up and seeing this volunteer standing right in front of him and having to yell at him to get out of the way. I wonder how much of that actually ended up distracting him. How much can we pin on the volunteer getting in his way to, messing Bo up? In my opinion, I don't know if we can attribute that much to the volunteer getting in the way. I almost feel like, okay, yeah, that happened, but the rifle wasn't even off your back yet when that happened. You should still be able, if you're the best in the world, you should still be able to like regather your focus so you can hit 5 shots with 8 targets.
Especially, I think athletes get into such a routine habit of like poles off, sight covers open, look at the wind flags, come onto the mat, and if there's a little hiccup in there somewhere, like yeah, it kind of stinks and it messes with your head a little bit, but then you have, like you said, like the rifle's still on your back. You have all that time to your first shot to resettle, and you'd think you'd be able to do like take a few more seconds, take a few more breaths to really settle his mind before that first shot, before he starts shooting. But it looked like he just kind of lost it and kind of fell apart a little bit in there.
Yeah, and I have a theory, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, but I think Sebastian Samuelsson is in Bo's head a little bit. I know, obviously, Bo is, he's the best in the world, and like I just said, I feel like he's got to have that confidence to be able to, maintain focus no matter who he's racing against. But when you look at Bo's track record of competing against the older guys, I feel like he always had this little chip on his shoulder of, hey, I'm the young guy. I want to fight with the older guys, whether it's Bjorn Dahlen from his own nation or Fourcade from France or, any of these other athletes, Chapulin as well. He's always been the young guy trying to punch up. And now all of a sudden, like, I mean, yeah, he's still like 27 or 28. Like he's still young, but definitely not the oldest on the circuit. But now that Fourcade is retired, it's almost like he's the one to beat now. And when you look at him compared to head to head compared to Sebastian Samuelsson, he's choked the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he choked this week in the relay. He choked the week before in the relay. And then even look at him against Fabien Claude, who's about 2 years younger than him. Fabien Claude outsprinted him in Kontiolahti, and then you have him against Emilien Jacquelin, who's much younger than him as well, who he lost to at World Champs back in Antholz. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's something about Bo that like he's always been the young guy trying to fight with the older athletes, and now he's the old guy, or he is the old guy that everyone's trying to fight. Maybe there's just there's nothing to lose when you're the young guy who just the fact that you're there competing is good enough. And now that he's trying to maintain his spot, his dominant position, it's almost like it's like that game King of the Hill. He has a really good attack strategy for trying to get up the hill and claim the top spot. But now that he's at the top of the hill, he doesn't know how to defend. He only knows how to attack. So yeah. And it's been really interesting because, like, let me ask you this. Did Samuelsson win the relay for Sweden, or did Johannes Thingnes lose it for Norway?
I'm going to have to say I think Johannes Thingnes lost it for Norway, because we'd expect him to win that battle between him and Samuelsson, and you'd expect him to hit the five targets with the 8 shots that you get in a relay, and he couldn't deliver on that. And although Samuelsson did come out on top, it didn't quite feel like he won it for Sweden, just because of the rifle mechanical issue that he had on the range, and it wasn't super glorious and amazing like everyone wants it to be. I would have to say Johannes Thingnes lost that for Norway for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously props to Samuelsson for keeping his cool, figuring out what was going on wrong with his rifle, fixing it, and hitting the last 2 shots. That's I don't know. It's that was really professional of him. Women's Yellow Bib. Holy crap. This is turning out to be, in my opinion, the most exciting part of the season right now. Marte Olsbu Røiseland crushed this week and ends up claiming the top spot, currently in first place in the overall with 271 points. Alimbekava from Belarus got her first win in the sprint, and now she is only 6 points behind, and they both overtook Hanna Oeberg, who is now 12 points back of Røiseland. But this is crazy. This is like, these 3 athletes within 12 points. On realbiathlon.com, they have a great map of where everyone's standing in the overall, and you just see this huge pack of names, but then there's 3 people who are just head and shoulders above the rest, and it's Røiseland, Alimbekava, and Oeberg, and this is going to be the fight right here. And obviously, I think everyone was expecting Røiseland and Oeberg to be up there. Nobody was expecting this girl from Belarus to be there. And quite frankly, I thought Doro would be playing a little bit bigger part in this. I mean, Doro's ranked 5th overall, so she's still in contention. But I think no, this is great. These 3 girls right here, literally being so close to each other after 3 weekends, and if they can stay this close to each other going into the holiday break, I think these 3 are going to be fighting amongst each other for the rest of the season.
I totally agree. I think coming out of the first week in Kontiolahti, I think we would have kind of written this one off as a sure win for Hanna Oeberg, but the other competitors have really come back strong. It's crazy what's going on. Like, Eckhoff was up there last week with her pursuit win, and Røiseland was right there with her too, as they went 1 and 2. But then Røiseland was able to keep it together in the pursuit here in Hochfiltzen, whereas Eckhoff missed 3, unfortunately, in her first shooting, I believe it was.
Yeah, that was rough.
It's pretty crazy. And then Alimbekava, like we talked about her last week, how she was up and coming and had that 4th place, I believe it was, and we were hoping to see more from her, and here she comes with a bang, winning the sprint.
Something I didn't realize, Alimbekava actually has an Olympic gold medal to her name. She was on the gold medal winning relay team in Pyeongchang back in 2018. So this is kind of crazy to me, because obviously I'm thinking she's just this new girl who's just kind of shown up, and now she's kind of fighting as she becomes more mature and has more experience on the World Cup. But she actually has an Olympic gold medal, which is more than most people on the World Cup can say.
Mhm. And she's only 24 now. For a young gun like her to come into the Olympics and be able to do that is pretty crazy to see. I mean, like we saw with Samuelsson, he was able to do that in the men's relay with Sweden, but I feel like we already kind of knew who he was a little bit. Whereas Alimbekava, no one really like paid attention to her too much, and now she's here, absolutely crushing it.
No, I just think
it's really awesome to see.
It's crazy. Like, I mean, we talked about her a lot last week, so we're not going to beat a dead horse, but just, what she's doing this year with hit rate, ski speed, and just consistently being in the top 10 in results, it almost seems unsustainable. But right after we said that, she goes and gets a win and then second in the pursuit. So, so she's obviously keeping it going.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see if she can literally keep it going all the way through the entire season. But yeah, I mean, Røiseland, obviously she's made the comeback. I always really want Røiseland to be just kind of the Johannes Thingnes on the women's side, and she never is, but she's also winning overall. So
yeah, and she has the ability to have the effect Johannes Thingnes does. We saw it in the pursuit where she was in that leading group of 4 or 5 and decided to take it over and ski her own pace and push the pace for the others. And they came into the range and she was the only one to hit 5. And from there on out, it was kind of her versus the clock. And then Alimbekava came back in at the end. But Røiseland was just able to control the race with what seemed to be fairly easy. Obviously, it's the World Cup. It's not super easy, but she made it look really easy.
Yeah, no, and then one thing she said in the post-race press conferences was her main goal was to focus and compete every race. I don't think she didn't say specifically that her goal was to win the Yellow Bib this year and to win the Crystal Globe, but she said that her goal this year is to fight in every single race. So to me, that sounds like her mentality has shifted from being like a one weekend or a one stage, peak to try to be more consistent overall and see if she can win that Yellow Bib.
And hopefully, like I'm rooting for her, hopefully she's able to do that. It's always awesome to see athletes achieve their goals, and she's looking so far like she's been able to do that. So hopefully she can keep it going.
Yeah, and then one person we haven't really talked about is Oeberg, just because she's crushed. She crushed in Kontiolahti, and then towards the end of the week, she started looking kind of fatigued. And then in 29th in the sprint, that's not going to help the overall.
No, not at all.
She was able to shoot 100% in the pursuit and really claw her way back up to 4th place, like destroyed everyone in the pursuit times. It's too bad for her it wasn't a mass start, but yeah, no, she was able to really crush it in the pursuit on the next day and come back up to 4th. But no, she just looks flat to me. She looks tired. I don't see that springiness in that attack that we saw in the first weekend in Kontiolahti.
Yeah, for sure. And in the last lap, particularly in the pursuit, like Julia Simone just like blew by her like it was no problem. Whereas the first 2 weeks in Kontiolahti, no one was even close to her, except for her sister, of course. But
okay, so we have Røiseland, Alimbekava, and Oeberg in the top 3, and they're pretty significantly ahead of everyone else. Like Oeberg has 259 points, and then Elvira Oeberg in 4th place has 208 points. So literally, 50 points back, 49 points back. So of these next 4 names that I'm about to list off, which one do you think has the best chance of making a crazy comeback and fighting for the overall? Elvira, Oeberg, Doro, Franziska Preuss, and Tiro Lekhoff.
I'm probably going to throw a curveball out here and say Franziska Preuss, just because she doesn't ski the fastest, she doesn't shoot the fastest, and you wouldn't think of her out of those to be the best shot. But I think she has the balance of all of those and is able to keep it together more regularly. So like her bad day isn't going to be as bad as the others' bad days. And like we saw with like Tiro, like she missed 3 in the first shooting in the pursuit. It doesn't really feel like Preuss is going to do that. And right now, Vera doesn't look to quite have the ski speed to contend with the top dogs, whereas Preuss was able to prove that she can do that this week. And so yeah, that's my take. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Preuss there immediately, and I agree with you. I think she is a consistent athlete, but I just don't feel like she has that just like I can win, I can do this. That you need to be competing for the overall. So I don't know. Based on those names, I want to say Doro, but I haven't really felt it from her this year. I feel like I don't know. I mean, she's had some top 10 results and she's even been on the podium, but I don't know. I don't feel I'm not excited by Doro like I have been in years past. So I almost want to go with Eckhoff, but even that I don't feel like is a great option either because talk about streakiness. She's someone who she'll win one day and then yeah, she might not even make the pursuit the next day with poor shooting. So I don't know if any of those girls can start clawing their way back in. Um, so I think just based off of consistency, I'm going to probably go with Preuss as well because that's what you need to be the overall winners. You need to be consistent. And according to realbiathlon.com, Preuss's ski speed has actually improved pretty significantly this year compared to other people in the top 30 and actually improved a lot compared to other people in the top 10. Last year, she was skiing 2.6% back of people in the top 10, but this year she's only skiing 1% back of people in the top 10. So there's other people in the top 10 that are still skiing faster than her, but she closed that gap pretty significantly this year. And in my opinion, that's been the thing that's been holding her back has been her ski speed because I think she's always been a pretty decent shooter, but yeah, it never seemed like she really had it on the snow. And now it seems like she at least has it enough to be competitive. You know, she might not be out kicking anyone on the last lap, but she has it enough to hang in there the whole race.
I wonder if part of that is like she hasn't really been the spotlight on the German team. Like the past few years, it's been Denise Herrmann, and before that, it was Laura Dahlmeier, and Preuss has kind of always been that number two in the German team almost. And I wonder if now she sees the opportunity that she can be the German number one, like consistently, and that's giving her new confidence on the tracks and on the range.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see how she ends up doing with that because, you know, we know that sometimes with that level of pressure, especially from a large nation like Germany, where biathlon is so popular, sometimes that pressure can make someone crumble and other people can thrive. So we'll see what ends up happening with that.
Mm-hmm. It'll be an exciting race to watch for sure.
All right, let's jump over to the men's side. The French boys are back. We thought we thought they all retired when Fourcade retired, but no, the French boys are still around, crushing it this week in Hochfiltzen. What did you think?
And it seems like they're finally starting to figure themselves out within that new team without Fourcade. Like for example, we see Fabien Claude, who's absolutely crushing it on the skis right now, and looks good on the range too. And Fillon Maillet getting his fourth career victory in the pursuit after a really really good race was awesome to see. And then to see Emilien and Jacquelin also kind of bounce back after probably slightly less than ideal relay, come back in the pursuit and just crush it. I think they have good high hopes now for the rest of the season, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm everything about those three guys that you just mentioned, I really like. I think they look extremely comfortable on the skis. They all have very different styles. Like, you know, Fillon Maillet is more of like a skinny technique kind of guy. Fabien Claude is more of just like an all-out power guy, and then Jacquelin is like he's an all-rounder, but I think he has the tactics. And I mean, we even talked to him when we had him chatting with our club over Zoom earlier in the COVID break. He talked about how much he's brought cycling tactics into biathlon because he loves cycling so much. And so all three of these guys, I really like watching them ski. I think they're really competitive, and like I don't want to say I didn't like Fourcade. I think I was always biased against Fourcade because I don't like someone who wins all the time. It's just not as fun. I like to see the craziness and the mixing of the, of the standings. So I never disliked Fourcade. I thought he's done a lot for biathlon, but it for me it got a little boring rooting for him. I always love to see someone try to come in and beat him. But now that these guys, none of these guys are Fourcade, and I don't think any of them will become Fourcade. But I really enjoy watching them ski. I enjoy watching them race, and I don't know. It's just been fun to see these guys all of a sudden. I don't know what happened in Kontiolahti. Maybe it was the lack of sun. Maybe it was the course or what. But all of a sudden, now that we're in Hochfiltzen, these guys have come alive. And
hopefully they can keep it going. And maybe it just took them a little while to work into this season and kind of get their feet under them. I don't think we can talk about the French men without mentioning their struggles in the relay. As far as like the other guys in the relay team go, like you said before, like Fillon Maillet, like Claude, and Giganot are all having really good seasons. And maybe it's just Jacquelin needs a break from the relays, and maybe it's one, maybe it's two, and then maybe he comes back and they win world champs. We'll have to wait and see.
yeah, I mean, my money based on this weekend, my money's on them at world champs. Like, I mean, Norway has obviously been strong. Johannes, great first victory ever, young guy. And then you have Legreed and Bo, and then Carrier Bo. I mean, that Norway's top four are all in the top six overall right now. So you can't say that they're not the team to beat. But I don't know, something about France. Like I just like the way all of them ski. They're all very different, but they all have a great like a great personal style that it's been really fun to watch. I mean, and then obviously Sweden, like they ended up winning the race anyway, so you can't count them out. Even though Sebastian's in second place and their next best dude is not even in the top 10, how did they win their relay? Like, this is what we love about biathlon, is that there's no reason Sweden should have won that relay, yet they did. And it's because you hit the targets at the right time, and you executed your leg, and you also hit the target. And that's one thing that I can definitely feel confident about Sweden, is if it came down to shooting, I feel confident that Sweden's going to hit the target.
Yeah, and I don't think we can discount the Germans either. Like they got third. They got third this weekend, and that was a team without Arne Pfeiffer, who's usually their rock and their solid anchor man every single time, who never seems to let them down. And he wasn't in the team this week, and they still got third. And I think it was Philip Horn who stepped up and took the last leg and absolutely crushed it. And maybe they can put a team together that can contend with France and Sweden and Norway, but we'll really have to wait and see.
All right. Speaking of successful teams, definitely have to talk about the U.S. this week, because it was really successful weekend for America. And I don't know, maybe not necessarily in the relay, but I think the sprint day was great. Freaking
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, they had six of their 8 athletes qualify for their pursuit. All 4 women qualified, which is, I think, the first time in recent history that's happened. Maybe not the first time ever, but first time in a long time. And Clare Egan led the charge with a top 10 in the sprint, and then another top 15 in the pursuit.
Yeah, I mean, what more could we have asked for? I think any other country, I think they're probably disappointed if all 4 of their athletes don't qualify for the pursuit. But for the American, especially the American women who have seen little moments of success with Susan Dunkley at World Champs, to have all 4 of them have good races, have good days, and maybe they didn't quite feel like they had a great day out there, but they're to be able to do that and qualify for the pursuit, and not only qualify for the pursuit, but they all contended in the pursuit. And at one point, we're making really big gains, and that was absolutely incredible to see.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, the U.S. men's relay team, I don't think they were never like fighting for a top 5 or a podium, but I feel like everyone just had a really solid day overall. You know what I mean? It just seemed like
Mm-hmm.
everyone hit their targets, everyone skied well, and yeah, they were fighting for top 10. So
Yeah, oh for sure. And looking at the stats on realbiathlon.com, the American men were actually tied for the second best shooting team on the day,
awesome.
which I don't think we really would have expected
Mm.
from them, considering how the last relay went and how the season had kind of been going a little bit. But to see that was really cool. And on the women's side, like two penalty loops, but it seems like in the women's race, a lot of the teams struggled to stay off the penalty loop and hit the targets. But all in all, a really good weekend for the U.S.
All right, spare round. We're going into the first mass start of the season next year. I was kind of afraid that it wasn't going to happen because of COVID, but hey, they're doing the pursuits, so why not do a mass start? All reports that I've heard is that IBU is doing a great job when it comes to COVID protocols and everything, and no one's threatening to go home because of lack of safety or anything. So they're going to just go for it with the mass start next weekend. Men's side, who is your mass start winner?
I'm gonna put my money on Sebastian Samuelsson. I think he'll get into the head of Johannes Bo, and Johannes Bo might crack again. And I think Samuelsson will have the momentum going in terms of that matchup to stick with it and really throw down a good race.
Awesome. I like that. That's a strong candidate for me. I kind of want to go with Seabass too. I'm always rooting for him, but I'm going to go with Quentin Fillon Maillet because I think he's on the up and up. His trajectory has been skyrocketing since Kontiolahti. He obviously feels more comfortable in Hochfiltzen. He did really well this last weekend, and he's the kind of guy who has actually more experience than Bo and Samuelsson. So I'm hoping that he can take that and be a little bit more stoic and a little bit more controlled on the range and not get excited about being first place or fighting for first place. So I'm going to go with Fillon Maillet from France.
Always a good bet. And you can't discount the young guns too, like Johannes from Norway and Jacquelin and Claude, who we talked about earlier. Like they're all running on really high results, and I'm sure their adrenaline will be going during this race, and hopefully they can produce something big too.
Mm-hmm. All right, and on the women's side, who do you have?
I think right now you can't really vote against Røiseland, who looks like she has everything coming together and going for her. And when it does get challenging and she's asked to hit those targets in the last standing, she seems like she's been able to do so.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that's a really good one. A really good. You keep taking my picks. I'm going to go with Hanna Oeberg just because even though I think ski-wise, if it came down to a ski race, I do think Røiseland has the edge. But I feel like Oeberg still has that, I don't know, I still think she has that edge even though she's ranked third overall right now. Something about her just kind of like when I see her name, I just think winner. I just think, she's going to be in front. And so definitely if she can do a mass start like she had her pursuit last week, or this weekend, no, she's going to be guaranteed the win. So either way, I think it's going to be a fight, and I'm really hopeful for a really exciting one and a race that comes down to the wire. Because again, that's the best part about biathlon.
True. The first mass start of the year is always a little crazy, and hopefully this one lives up to that expectation. I'm excited.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button if you are liking this content and you want more biathlon content. Ethan and I will try to get one out every week to recap the World Cup races. And yeah, until next time, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.